TF2 has one of the greatest weapon selections of any game I've ever played. As someone with quite a few hours under his belt, I've played with every weapon that each of the classes bring to the table, and in general, they're all pretty well designed. But like anything in life, a great selection of something is always going to have a few outliers. And in this case, while the game's vast array of weapons is mostly good all around, some of them are slightly underwhelming and at worst, downright unenjoyable. So I thought it'd make for a good video to take a look at weapons I see as the most needing of changes, and to make some suggestions as to how I would improve them. But a couple of rules first. I'm picking one weapon per class to make sure that the worst of each class's arsenal has a chance for improvement, and also, I'm only one guy, so this is my opinion in regards of weapon balance. So if there's anything you agree or disagree with today, or if you have some rebalance ideas of your own, let me know in the comments. I'd like to see what you guys can come up with. And with all of that out of the way, let's get into how I'd rebalance TF2's worst weapons. As a class, I think Scout is pretty well designed in terms of his stock weapons and his unlocks, but one of his consumable items has always felt a little underwhelming to me, the Bonk Atomic Punch. I know that gaining 8 seconds of invulnerability is pretty powerful in the right hands, and that the slowdown on the item's deactivation can be pretty easily mitigated, but I've always felt that the Bonk needed a little something. That's when I thought of this item's stat right here. Not being able to attack while under the Bonk's effects seems a little too harsh to me, so I feel like it'd be beneficial for you to have some way to defend yourself while invulnerable. So I came up with this workaround, a 65% damage penalty on weapons while under the Bonk's effects. This way, you can still shoot and make your way through tough defenses or choky parts of the map easier, while also being balanced out by less damage on otherwise lethal weapons. Think of this new Bonk like an on-demand Ubercharge for Scout, especially with the ability to attack while under its effects. I feel like this will finally give players a good reason to use the Bonk in most situations, but let me know what you think. Soldier has some of my favorite unlocks in the entire game. I especially love using weapons like the direct hit and the disciplinary action in most loadouts I run. But the items I love the most in his arsenal would have to be the banners. They all provide game-changing buffs for him and his entire team, and can easily turn the tide of a battle heavily in your favor. Surprisingly though, they're sometimes underlooked in favor of running a shotgun or the gunboats, so I feel like his banners need some changes to gain a little more love from your typical soldier player. So I think the best solution is also the easiest. Combine all of his banner types into one ultra-powerful banner, which I give the name, the Buff Banner Battalion's Backup Conqueror. Pretty clever, right? But on paper, an item that gives you mini crits for your team, damage resistance, crit immunity, health on hit, and a speed boost seems a bit too powerful, so to balance these upsides out, I made this new banner require 1000 damage to build up. This means that you need to put in more work to reap the higher rewards. A 1500 damage requirement also makes you think twice about when to use your banner, since you'll have access to this huge buff much less often. Now, some might say that this damage requirement is a little too low, but I think that this 2000 damage is the right sweet spot for such a powerful team buff. Okay, now that we've got to Pyro, you all know what's coming next. It's finally time to rebalance the Gas Passer. I think everybody would agree that it's the worst item in the game, even with its niche use in MVM. So how would I go about changing it? Well, first, I think the Dragon's Fury is in heavy need of a damage boost. The 75 base damage on burning targets is nice, but even with 2 consecutive shots, ignoring afterburn, you can't even 2-tap a light class. So I think an overall damage boost to something like 90 base damage would be beneficial to the weapon overall. This lets Pyros who can actually land their shots be a bit more lethal. Plus, this new 120 damage on 2 consecutive shots crosses several important damage thresholds like Big Earner Spies and Sandman Scouts. I think this damage increase will bring the Dragon's Fury up to the same level as Pyro's other flamethrowers, rewarding good players and also being more forgiving for bad ones. But most importantly, the damage increase also affects another important damage threshold, Heavy's base health. With 300 health, Heavies are still deadly against a Dragon's Fury Pyro, needing roughly 5 shots to take out, assuming they aren't being healed or overhealed. But with this new Dragon's Fury, the Pyro only needs 4 shots to take out a Heavy, which despite Heavy's large health pool,
each monthly issue of Zoo Books is packed with breathtaking full-color.
Besides Medic, Demo is often seen as the most powerful class in the game, and with an equally powerful set of weapons, Demo Man can easily wipe the floor with the enemy team. But of his deadly arsenal, I think the weakest of the bunch would have to be the Loose Cannon. It's definitely a fun weapon, and in the right hands, can easily take care of light classes just like that. But the most memorable part of the Loose Cannon, being the Double Donk, always felt a little underwhelming whenever I picked up the weapon. I want to make that slight hit of dopamine you get on a double donk just that more satisfying. So now, successful double donks will deal full crits instead of mini crits. Now I know what you're thinking, that's a little too OP, right? Well, yeah, it is, but the loose cannon is supposed to be a fun weapon, and I think the right way to make it more fun is to give it more damage. Plus, even with this new crit mechanic, it's not like the whole enemy team is gonna run it, right?
Now when it comes to heavy, I think that we can all agree that the Brass Beast needs a little love. It's a fun alternative to the minigun and promotes a different sort of campy defensive playstyle, but because of how sluggish it is to use, not a whole lot of players even bother with it. So I removed the slower movement and rev speeds and replaced them with something a little riskier but definitely interesting. Now each successful hit with the minigun increases your speed while revved by 1%. As a downside though, for every point of damage you take, your movement speed will be reduced by 1%, capping down to Heavy's base movement speed. This means that you'll have to be more careful when you use the Brass Beast, making sure you hit each shot with it while carefully avoiding any oncoming damage. And sure, dodging damage as the slowest class might be a little bit much to ask for, but good heavy players can make it work, and I think this new Brass Beast will be a fun weapon that'll make playing heavy actually feel satisfying.
ZooBooks Today.
All around, Engineer is pretty balanced, but I would agree with a lot of players that the Wrangler is the one weapon of his that's in the most need of change. But that's got nothing to do with his actual most broken weapon, the PDA. I mean, you can literally build game-stalling buildings with it, easily winning most fights for your team. So to combat this and make it a little more balanced overall, I decided to make the PDA team-colored. That way, you're more easily identifiable by the team you're on, making it easier for the enemy to spot who they're supposed to be shooting at. Now, this change won't really impact them a whole lot if you're playing on defense or if you happen to stay near your other buildings, but in other game modes like King of the Hill and Control Point, I could see this making some sort of real difference. But overall, I feel like this will make good engineers more conscious about when and how they'll engage fights. Now, Medic is a class with a lot of nice cosmetics, but to me, it's a no-brainer that his best one would have to be the Uberwear. It's just a nice cosmetic all around, adding a subtle alternate look to the Medic's base model. The vest and tie combo looks so good, and the paint region, being the tie itself, lets you add a nice bit of flair to this spectacular cosmetic. The Uberwear also feels like an old-school cosmetic, like I could see it being released back in 2009 or 10. Something about it almost feels nostalgic in a way. But I can't praise this cosmetic enough. Ever since it was released, I've been using it religiously. Seriously, if you've got some keys to spare, I'd consider picking this cosmetic up. Sniper has a lot of interesting unlocks and side grades at his disposal, but I feel like the Bizarre Bargain is the one that could really use a change. It's pretty straightforward in its design, but in the right hands, it can easily become the scariest and most powerful weapon on the server. So to balance it out and make it both fun and useful in the hands of good and bad players alike, I came up with this change. Gone is the faster charge rate on successful headshot kills, and in its place, you spawn a sniper bot for each headshot kill you get. And I decided to code the bots to have higher skill levels that directly scale to both the number of hours you have on sniper and in the game in general. But unlike the 6 total heads you collect with the standard Bizarre Bargain, the total number of bots you can summon with this new version is capped out at 4, just to make things a little more balanced. I also decided that instead of losing your bots on death, as opposed to the prior heads, the sniper bots automatically join the enemy team. This means that you have to be extra careful when playing sniper, making sure your own death won't screw over your team. And the final change to the Bizarre Bargain is that only one of them can be used at a time per team. So basically, first come, first serve. I can see this becoming a nice change to the weapon, turning your average sniper into a pseudo-boss battle thanks to their sniper bots. But I feel like this might be a little underpowered in some areas, so let me know what you think. Last but not least, we've come to Spy, and I think it's high time that the kunai gets a change. Now, the problem I have with it doesn't come with the health on kill part, it's with how much health you get back. To counteract the max 210 health you can have with the kunai equipped, I decided to lower Spy's base health to 100. This means that the max health you can have when using the kunai gets knocked down to 185. This one change makes you more susceptible to more important damage thresholds, like getting one-shot by a random melee crit. But this lower base health also means that you'll have to be more mindful and careful when playing Spy in general. Especially with weapons like the Big Earner, each backstab you go for becomes much more dangerous. So I hope this change to the kunai will make Spies more conscious of how they'll go about backstabs and picking— Oh my god, what an absolute nightmare! Oh, Silent Strike from LEGO Exoforce Set 7709 Sentai Fortress. I just had the absolute worst stream that I made a video talking about rebalancing TF2's worst weapons, and all the ideas were just terrible. My god, what do you think I should do? Wait, are you telling me I should actually make that video and fill it with just downright misinformation, terrible ideas, and actually make it seem like I'm being genuine? Actually, that's not really a bad idea. I mean, I totally can't see how that'd blow up in my face, right? Time to get this show on the road. TF2 has one of the greatest weapon selections of any game I've ever played. Oh my god. It probably would have just been better if I made a real video talking about actual rebalancing ideas. Oh, this whole video idea was so stupid. Also, did you guys remember to subscribe to ZooBooks?